Welcome up.
So yeah, we already kind of had an informal welcome and introduction, but welcome also to those of you who may be joining afterwards. And we're having a bit of an impromptu session today because, well, actually, I guess one should have that attitude always. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring, but I think this month in particularly, we weren't sure how either of us are going to be available for the end of the month because of travel and baby and other things.
Exactly. So we figured we just move up the dates and just have our monthly Divaan at an earlier date. So what's our topic for today?
Today we were thinking to discuss and muse on service. What service is.
Or what it means to each one of us and how we can embody that.
And I think that was also something that even in another session was slightly touched upon, not in the Divaan, but in another setting. Yeah. By one of our sisters, to be of service and the need to be of service. Oh, May says deserve has the word serve in it. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Amazing.
Deserve. So, okay, that's something that came to mind apparently immediately.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I wanted to begin with a few excerpts from this book that I found in Louisa's bookshelf, The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And there was some mention of, there's so many stories and anecdotes and about, different aspects of his life. But this, I'm going to see if I can find something where I was reading the other day about, his travels. There was a pilgrimage he was making, and the element of how the guide guides the disciples towards service, even if it's something out of the comfort zone. So that is also part of the service in the path, that we make ourselves available. When we take initiation on a particular path, we're usually coming out of our own needs to be met. And the need for guidance, the need for rectification, same thing, the need for, I don't know, like a community, the need for, what else? I was going to say feeling that you belong somewhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, all of that. But sometimes we forget that when we are coming towards a guide or a path, we forget about how, rather than coming to receive, how can we give, right? And how can we serve? And even in the Sufi path, we have that, because people are like, troubled with something, or they feel they've hit a dead end, and then they're coming to the guide for receiving. But technically, if you study even the stories and the sort of training that many of the mystics went through, you have this element of coming to serve, as opposed to being served or receiving and just taking. And that perhaps is a secret forgotten. We have even, on the Mevlevi path, that when one is initiated or enters into that sort of collective, you have to serve in the kitchen for 3 years before you can even access the teachings or the sohbah of the master. So yeah, service is a huge sort of precursor to the spiritual openings that we receive on the path. I'm going to just read a few random. It's just funny because I never saw this last time, but I wanted to know about his link, Sri Ramakrishna's link to Islam. So I just apparently happened to find that page here. I'm going to read that now. Towards the end of 1866, he began to practice the disciplines of Islam. Under the direction of his Musalman guru, he abandoned himself to his new sadhana. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
He dressed as a Musalman and repeated the name of Allah. His prayers took the form of the Islamic devotions. He forgot the Hindu gods and goddesses, even Kali, and gave up the visiting of temples. He took up his residence outside the temple precincts. After 3 days, he saw the vision of a radiant figure, perhaps Muhammad, peace be upon him. This figure gently approached him and finally lost himself in Sri Ramakrishna. Thus he realized the Musalman God. Thence he passed into communion with Brahman. The mighty river of Islam also led him back to the ocean of the Absolute. So that was just, a little bit there. And then if you want to comment, I'll find something else.
No, nothing in particular comes to mind. No.
Okay, so now I'm going to fast forward because it talked about, his attitude towards different religions, how he was very in sync with all the traditions, and his excessive love of God didn't allow him to differentiate between the other traditions, and everything was just one for him. But then here is what we're talking about, the service. So this is, it gives you some insight on, about the discipleship and service. In January 1868, Mathur Babu, with a party of some 125 persons, set out on a pilgrimage to the sacred places of northern India. At Vaidyanath in Bihar, when the master saw the inhabitants of a village reduced by poverty and starvation to mere skeletons, he requested his rich patron to feed the people and give each a piece of cloth. Mathur demurred at the added expense. The master declared bitterly that he would not go on to Benares, but would live with the poor and share their miseries. He actually left Mathur and sat down with the villagers. Whereupon Mathur had to yield, meaning he just wasn't allowed to go further on to the pilgrimage because his master did not allow him. He said, you have to serve and, assist these individuals in need. On another occasion, 2 years later, Sri Ramakrishna showed a similar sentiment for the poor and needy. He accompanied Mathur on a tour to one of the latter estates at the time of the collection of rents. For 2 years, the harvests had failed and the tenants were in a state of extreme poverty. The master asked Mathur to remit their rents, distribute help to them, and in addition, give the hungry people a sumptuous feast. When Mathur grumbled, the master said, you are only the steward of the Divine Mother. They are the mother's tenants. You must spend the mother's money. When they are suffering, how can you refuse to help them? You must help them. Again, Mathur had to give in. Sri Ramakrishna's sympathy for the poor sprang from his perception of God in all created beings. His sentiment was not that of a humanist or a philanthropist. Isn't that amazing? So it says here, I'm just going to repeat that. His sympathy for the poor sprang from his perception of God in all created beings. To him, the service of man was the same as the worship of God. And I'll stop right there. This is almost like, the essence of what we need to understand here today, hopefully. To him, the service of man was the same as the worship of God.
Mm.
I can't even remember. There's a saying that the way to God is through serving, his creation. And there must be a million sayings like that, but so much is taught through service. And this is such an important aspect of training. And we can ask ourselves, how much do we make ourselves available to serve, considering the time we have? Are we serving ourselves? Are we serving others? Are we serving those that require our service? How do we make use of our faculties to serve, our gifts, our skill set, or our skill sets for gifts? Anybody have anything to say? So quiet.
I am just reminded of two quotes. One was by the one that Salman Chishti Sahab gave to us. That was the one who serves becomes a master. Moisena by Sayyidina Moinuddin Chishti. Rahmatullah. And then Sheikh Muhammad Adil also gave this lecture in which he is saying that we are not slaves and we are servants because we serve. And God does not want slavery, God wants service. So that was very profound.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Maybe we could read a poem to reflect on
Absolutely. Yeah. I was thinking just that reminded me, Mehtab, about something something from the Bible. I'm trying to find the English version of that.
You have Latin Bible?
Latin Bible?
Do you have Latin Bible?
No, I have them, I have them in my mind in Swedish, but then I'm not sure if I'll translate it correctly.
A lot of the time in basically a lot of the time in the West, we have this notion of individual freedom. And when one takes upon the idea of, spiritual discipleship, or even coming towards a mentor, and you're asked to do things, it's almost like it's perceived as potential mind control, or, spiritual abuse, and everything along the lines of coercion and a person being taken advantage of. But rather, in Eastern tradition, I mean, if you see the Buddhist temples, the children who are trained they're from a very young age, they're busy in so many acts of service towards the temple, towards the kitchen, towards the guests, towards one another. And yeah, it's just interesting how the tradition of service has been polluted in the West, and it could be seen as something totally not the case. I mean, you have your experience from the ashram, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the part where what I was actually resisting the most, the service part. Ironically, like you said, it was exactly as you mentioned, you know, you come as a seeker, you're yearning for knowledge, you're thirsting to understand all these great mysteries, and you want to like just absorb as much as you can, and you think you can just like come in and receive all that.
It's almost like an entitlement attitude.
Kind of, I guess.
Yeah, and you think you're doing the sacrifice
it's an
by putting
earnest
your
desire. It's not, I don't think it comes from an impure state, like deep down. But I do think you have a lot of, or I had definitely a lot of ego involved in that. I wanted to just like hog all the knowledge. And then, you know, what is done instead is you get to clean the stables, and you get to wash the toilets, and you get to cook food, and you get to sweep the floors, and then you get to do that for years and years and years and years. And that's like what the majority of the day consists of. But then secretly you start to notice that that's also a training, because then you notice, like, while you're cleaning the toilets, you're like having all these thoughts that you have to deal with, your emotions, your resistance, your yourself, basically meeting yourself in all those acts. And then like when your teacher asks you to do something, and I remember it very clearly, I was asked to cut down some trees for my teacher, and then I got this weird idea somewhere that I was gonna sculpt one of the trees, you know, the stumps that I cut down, into like this yogic symbol. And then I did that, and he got so angry. He was like, "What are you doing? I asked you to cut down trees, not to, you know, start making art." And I was thinking, you know, I'm making something special. I'm making something nice for him. But like, that was just my own idea. And of course, you know, teachers have various tempers. So some are more harsh, I guess, and some less. He was a bit on the harsh side. But point is, like, why did I have to, at that point, start thinking on my kind of by myself? And again, this is a very, you know, foreign concept in the Western world, because authority is not something that's highly valued. But when you come to a teacher, I guess then that's like a big hindrance when if you don't manage to just like cast aside all your own ideas, then you're going to not be able to receive also those like actual teachings.
The pearls.
Yeah. And then also I was reminded, because when we talked about this topic, actually the topic I was thinking of was hospitability. And I think it's pretty similar in some ways, because I was thinking about how also culturally, for example, in the West, there's a very sort of closed atmosphere, and, you know, it's not very much my home is your home, or like please, you know, let me do this for you. It's very, you know, we do it 50-50 and split the bills when we go out to eat, and everyone minds their own thing. And I was just thinking, like, what an honor it is to actually get to serve someone, and what a gift it is to, you know, be allowed to host and to have yeah, like it's my honor. Well, now it's even more like, you know, I literally I have someone here who is giving me so much, but more thinking about the fact that can we also receive when someone wants to serve? Can we serve in that way, that when someone wants to gift us something, we also don't deny that?
Yeah.
Because there is, I think, that energy of just moving things around in the universe is a good thing. And I know there's even a story of where there's a disciple who comes to Krishna and asks for teachings, and then Krishna says, okay, but you'll have to give me something first. And then this guy says, I have nothing. I'm literally, you know, I don't have even more than the clothes I wear. And Krishna says, okay, pick up a leaf and then give it to me with, you know, love. And that's going to be sufficient. Then you'll feel like you gave me something and you can receive something. So I think it's, yeah, it's a two-way thing,
It's a
always.
two-way thing for sure. Well, I mean, in the Islamic tradition, the guest is seen as the guest of God. Some would even go to the extent of saying, you know,
The guest is God.
Yeah, I mean, so it's seen as that. And living in the Middle East, I've seen it's a very, the tradition of generosity and hospitality is so high. I mean, you go out and before you know it, you're assuming that you're paying the bill and it's paid for. Like, when did that happen? So, you know, visiting homes, you learn a lot about how love is expressed. It's a love language. Hospitality is a love language. And rather than seeing it as an obligation, you know, because there's a lot of, we're so immersed in ourselves. You know, my life, I own, you know, this is my stuff. And there's a bit of that sort of like, you know, your time. And when you have a guest over, whether it's for a longer period or a shorter period, it's you have to kind of put things, you have to readjust yourself. So there's a bit of that, you know, that that you have to face, and there could be resistance, so many things, but we learn a lot through the dissolving. And we realize that if we realize that we are just trustees of the trust or the things that have been given to us, we're not the owners, just we are trustees, then maybe the act of service can be seen as rather not, you know, I have to do this, but as a mere act of love and brotherhood, sisterhood, companionship, serving the guest of God. I don't know, like, there's so much in that. And definitely there's a deep sort of satisfaction that you get, you know, in service. I know studies have been done when individuals with certain psychological conditions were asked to, you know, do an act of service. So whether it was just, you know, the neighborhood cat you'd give milk every day to, or, you know, help, you know, a neighbor who may be an elderly individual with groceries, or commit yourself to an act of serving, those individuals, you know, were healing on so many different levels, as opposed to just living for yourself or your family, or just, you know, me, myself, and I kind of thing. And technically we're here as a collective, you know, and we live among one another. So how can we be one with one another? And service is a great way to experience oneness, because there's so much that you have to dissolve when you give and share. what is mine is yours, you know, and that's what happened with the companions of the Prophet, when, peace be upon him, when the muhajirs, the migrants of Mecca came to Medina, you know, they were vying to serve the companions, the Ansar, where they said, oh, you know, our belongings, our house, because they came as literally refugees taking refuge in this new city, which was alien and foreign to them, and they had to leave behind, you know, so much. So the Ansar had such a high position in the sense that they were receiving these individuals who had come, who had left everything. So, you know, my house is yours, my food is yours, everything, you know. And so these individuals were not, the muhajirs were not made to feel like immigrants, more like, you know, this is really, you know, a level of brotherhood. And so there was so much of that happening. Yeah, so that sort of dynamic of the migrant and the host, or I'm not, you know, I'm just trying to think of the correct word, but that could be happening every day in our life, you know. So yeah, how can we embody that?
And it's so easy, I guess, to serve, like you said, to serve yourself or your family. And I'm thinking about the current kind of situation we have here. Finland has never been maybe traditionally a very open country to immigrants or refugees, but now during this Ukraine situation, suddenly there's been a lot of goodwill, and people have been so happy to take people into their homes, and of course that's amazing. But I'm just thinking, like, why is it easier now than it's been throughout the past few decades, when there's been immigrants from all over and refugees, and there hasn't been that same kind of hospitality? So what is it that kind of makes us wanna be one with something or someone, and what hinders us from being that with someone else? Why is it difficult maybe to, I know that many spiritual traditions, and even like in my family back in the days, you know, you'd, for example, on big holidays, you'd, you know, invite just the people around you, like if there's someone who doesn't have a home or doesn't have food or something, like that would be, for example, Christmas, inviting that kind of a group of people over, not just your friends and family. But why is it so difficult to kind of want to unite with the beggar, with the sick people, with the those that are not like you are, in the sense that if you have status, or if you have, I don't know, like any kind of presupposed ideas, I suppose, of what is not desirable in your life. Because there's like this Srimad Ramakrishna mentioned about the service, and there's this other Indian saint, I'm not sure if it was actually the one who's called Amma at the moment, or someone else, but like when she was a young girl, already then she had this saintly status, and she'd go around and basically just be with lepers and lick their wounds, and they'd heal. And why do we resist?
The Prophet, peace be upon him, advised us to sit with the poor, eat with the poor, you know. To mingle with all is extremely important. I remember I met a young person who prefers to go out in an area where you see a lot of the homeless, and just kind of talk to them, befriend them, learn from them. So this coming out of your comfort zone, or even not even your comfort zone. It's almost like there's so many social stratas in society, and how often do we get out of our own? So do we mix with others? You know, do we make that effort? And sometimes it's an effort that is required.
Also, in that, like, you witness the role. You, for example, if you come from a different economic background, and then you hang out with somebody who's more, who's less financially, and who has more financial hardships, there's a guilt that you feel, but also there's also that respect in that, to detach from who you are and just meet them at a human level. So there's also a lot of like the ego surfaces with guilt, and then there's also that silencing of the guilt to just connect on a human level, which I feel really gets you, is out of our comfort zone. Yeah, because often when you're in a better, at least for me, and you feel like you want to help, but just sitting without doing anything sometimes, and just sharing a meal, and without feeling like you must give, that's also, I feel sometimes we give from our ego instead of just sharing the hardship, and that's the most humane thing you could do, is just to share, to listen, to just sit and really resist that urge to, I need to help, I need to help, I need to help, which sometimes could come from the ego. Which is also something, and to discuss, when somebody receiving, sometimes you want to give back, and then when you want to pay back, you feel like you're indebted to somebody who gives you something. And then the way you pay back, how do you do it in a way that's also, that has humility in it, That's something I think about. Do you have any thoughts?
Well, I mean, you just basically, I think you nailed it when you said sometimes it's just about meeting someone on a human level, the humanistic level, and not having this kind of like tit for tat or reciprocate even. I mean, just to receive. For example, and that happens. We discovered a pizzeria near her house, because I was wondering, where can one get halal? How can we figure this out, right? And we ended up through her, through Louisa's, she had this recommendation of, this place being a good place for, food and stuff. So we went there, and the owner was an Algerian, man, Muslim man, and he said everything here is halal, and we were so happy to have found this place, because you get halal meat, you get the Arabic food and whatnot, and so it's just like now the hangout, basically. I can actually just see us even doing like poetry readings there, and because there's so many interesting individuals that we have seen in the only 2 visits just coming there. And I think he was equally like happy to have visitors, who were connecting to him on different levels. And he offered to, give the coffee. Like, I was like, I'm going to get some coffee. And I was like, we were both ready to pay. And he's like, no, it's on the house. And we were, a little hesitant to that, because we didn't want to make it look like, we're just here to, have endless coffees. And he was so happy just having us, just basically, allowing us to drink as much as we wanted. And I felt like this obligation that, oh my God, like are we using this guy? And he comes and he offers like these cookies, right? And he's like, you know, have this with the coffee, and it's probably something he had in the back. And so what happened was I was just like, oh, okay, you know, and then I remember I went up to him at the end. I said, you know, just out of gratitude. And now, you know, you made me think. I'm like, you know, was this coming out of ego? And I said, you know, I'm so grateful that, yes, we ate and, you know, we love your place and we love to hang out. We were there for a couple of hours and, you know, going for seconds for coffee. And plus, I was like, you know, how can I, you know, express gratitude? So I said, you know, something about, you know, just doing something in Medina for this individual in his name. He was very happy, but then now I'm thinking, you know, is it because I'm not receiving and I'm just trying to, I don't know, just get that thing, you know, where, you know, he's not
بالعكس that's إحسان.
yeah, I don't know, like I'm not sure now, you know, what my intention.
إحسان, because no, because it's not for you. It's not something you, يعني, at the end, it's a prophetic thing in Medina to يعني, you judge your own intention. But I was thinking about it from it doesn't feel like it was from the ego, but I'm thinking of it from the perspective of like capitalist service, you know, like you, يعني, we want to, you get served and then you feel like you have to, you know, do something. And then it becomes something where everybody shows off what they do, the other side and the other side. And it's kind of like, there's no humility in it. Yani. Sometimes it's israf, you know?
Yeah.
That's
What is that?
yeah.
Waste.
It's israf, yeah. It's like waste, yeah. Astaghfirullah. So sometimes when it's like that, you don't even want to you don't know, you know, that's what I meant. I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, but I'm also questioning, you know.
Of
Yeah.
course, I think it's good to question, but
Yeah.
also I think there is that inherent, which I notice because, like I mentioned, there's this like, thankfully in, you know, my family, things haven't been so cold, but I know even with some like acquaintances, people are super, you know, not sharing, not gifting, not generous. And not like because I don't think it's because they don't appreciate others. I just think that's like, it's cultural to some degree. So when, for example, someone like this owner of this restaurant is like stepping out of that kind of being, and just showing a very real and raw generosity, hospitality, service, then that evokes also like a natural response of like, there's this overflowing love that comes just like, I can't help it. I just, and I don't think it's necessarily to him, it has to be gifted back. I just think it's kind of like, you get love on your love account, and then you kind of, you'll have to share it at some point because you can't just like sit with it. So someone's going to get it sooner or later.
It's an activation, it's constant activation. It's contagious, right?
It is.
Generosity is contagious, and it's a beautiful love language.
And this one, for example, is highly like generous. So it's yeah, it is very, very just irresistible to start wanting to gift back. And I think that's also where it's so important that we learn to receive and, you know, accept and not just reject, but also allow others to, you know, serve us and gift us and, you know, treat us. Because that's also, that's service in another way. You let someone help you, you let someone do something for you, they benefit from that.
Yeah, it's true. And to give, there's, you know, we generally have this stereotype that it's sometimes limited. Well, it's not always, but, you know, we have this association to generosity in monetary means. But no, there's so many ways of how to be generous, where acts of charity are a smile, removing, you know, a harmful object from the way. There's so many ways of serving, you know, planting a tree. I don't know, like, I remember in Saudi, it was common to see outside a home, sort of like a water tank or something, where you can actually just have, you know, passerbys going, workers on the street, they're thirsty, you can go, you know, literally fill up your
thing,
yeah, you have the glasses, or you have the glass and fill up water. So yeah, there's so many ways of serving. Basically, there's so many ways of expressing service to one another in humanity, and we should not limit it to, because you know, there was a companion, you know, some of the companions that were poor and struggling, and they said, you know, we won't be able to, you know, gain much in the hereafter because we have nothing to give, you know. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, reassured, even a date could equate to a mountain of gold, because if that's your intention, to give that much in the way of service, then you will be rewarded for your intention. So intention is key, and then the doors open up, because if we put out, if we make ourselves available to serve and we're not sure how, but if the intention is there, then that means comes forth, and we don't have to worry about that. So yeah, so many ways to serve all creation, not limited to human beings. Some of the saints, I think it was Shah Naqshband, or perhaps another one, where his master asked him to serve the dogs in the street, and that was his, you know, this was part of his training. Do you have something?
Yeah. I'm not really sure how well this relates to service, but
Okay.
but I'm thinking it does have something to do with it. It's from the Book of Love by our ever-present master Rumi, and Coleman Barks translation as usual. This is called Ayaz and the King's Pearl. One day the king assembled his courtiers. He handed the minister a glowing pearl. "What would you say this is worth?" "More gold than 100 donkeys could carry," he replied. "Break it," said the king. "Sir, how could I waste your resources like that?" The king presented him with a robe of honor and took back the pearl. Then he put the pearl in his chamberlain's hand. "What would it sell for?" "Half a kingdom, God preserve it." "Break it." "My hand could not move to do such a thing." The king presented him with a robe of honor and an increase in his salary. So it went with each of the 60 courtiers. One by one, they imitated the minister and the chamberlain and received their reward of new wealth. The pearl was given to Ayaz. "Can you say how splendid this is?" "It's more than I can say." "Then break it this second into tiny pieces," the king said. Ayaz had had a dream about this, and he had hidden 2 stones in his sleeve. He crushed the pearl to powder between them. As Joseph at the bottom of the well listened to the end of his story, so such listeners understand success and failure as one thing. Don't worry about forms. If someone wants your horse, let him have it. Horses are for hurrying ahead of others. The court assembly screamed at the recklessness of Ayaz. How could you do that? What the king says is worth more than any pearl. I honor the king, not some colored stone. The courtiers immediately fell on their knees and put their foreheads on the ground. Their sighs went up like smoke, asking forgiveness. The king gestured to his executioner as though to say, take out this trash. Ayaz sprang forward. Your mercy makes them bow like this. Give them their lives. Raise their faces into yours. Let them wash in your cool washing place. Ayaz in his speech to the king gets to this point and then the pen breaks. You picked me to crush the pearl. Don't punish the others for my drunken obedience. Punish them when I'm sober, because I'll never be sober again. Whoever bows down like they are bowing will not rise up in his old self. Like a gnat in buttermilk, they have become your buttermilk. The mountains are trembling. The map and compass are the lines in your palm. Hussam, 100,000 impressions from spirit are wanting to come through here. I feel stunned in this abundance, crushed and dead.
Mehtab, I guess you are the host. Here we go. We lost the host for a while. SubhanAllah.
Who's ready to? Shall I recite something?
Maybe
Did
after.
you?
Yeah. Do you want to start?
No. Mm-mm. Okay. What are we going to have? May, would you like to say something, or Mehtab?
I can
All
just
right.
Thank you.
just a little one. I should listen to the queen, break that resistance with rocks and steel. There isn't a block or a door without a key. Move the mind, the mountains obsolete. Service in love is love's keep. The head that bows brings heart abreast. The secret of service opens the rest.
Inshallah.
Would you mind reading it again?
I should listen to the queen, break that resistance with rocks and steel. There isn't a block or a door without the key. Move the mind, the mountains obsolete. Service in love is love's keep. The head that bows brings heart abreast. The secret of service opens the rest.
The secret of service.
And the secret service, meaning the fact that it's, I think across all traditions, recommended that you don't talk about what service you do, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have also heard about the third layer. The first is like you give, but this then the tradition goes that you keep it a secret, and then there's the other one, if you do it so that you can teach others to do it. That is also big. It's
Yeah,
the
that too is an act
intention.
of generosity. Yeah.
Yes.
And then you'd have to be really clear with your intention, though, so that you know you're not just looking for others' approval.
Yes.
Or appreciation or whatever.
Because had we not known about the generosity of individuals, I mean, that itself serves as an inspiration. Because although we're asked to give charity in secret, but also in open, that is from the prophetic tradition. We take encouragement from those who give as well. It's a reminder.
But okay, can I just practically ask how would that be done in a sort of neutral way?
I think it's just very at how it opens up to everyone. For example, I know just studying about, for example, Prince Talal. He's a philanthropist, giving millions from whatever he has all the time on so many projects. And of course, he has his investments, but he also makes it a point, and it's documented, where he goes into the desert or he goes into certain areas and he's you know, and individuals are called and they make their request and he gives them envelopes, and that's like, that's not a secret. And I mean, just seeing that, people are inspired to do something. So I mean, how do you do that? Like, how do you find the, what was your question?
No, I'm just thinking, like, for example, again, since the traditions are so different, it's not like people here in a very secular country are having any kind of religious, for example, doctrine to follow when it comes to service or when it comes to, you know, charity or things like that. Many do give to charity, but that would be, I think, more of a private matter. And I'm just trying to think, like, what would it look like here, for example, to give things openly? Of course, you know, if there's a beggar on the street, I can give some money. I don't have to like make it, you know, very discreet in the sense, but I'm not also going to say like, hey, everyone, here's some money. So I'm just trying to think like how.
No, like you told me, for example, that you 2 weeks ago or something had some friends come over and they came over for the sole purpose of just helping you prepare some foods for post delivery. You're telling me that is a way of, like, you were exposing what these, and that was like, you know, such an inspiration that you have friends who, you know, came over, slept over, spent hours to prepare certain meals for their friend. Right there, I mean, telling. I was at the hospital for almost like on and off for a month because my father was at one point, you know, requiring to be there. And when we would go out into the garden and sit on these benches by the fountain, the benches would have, you know, a plaque saying, you know, this bench was donated by Mark and Christy, for example. And that itself, seeing that openly, that open act of charity or philanthropy was an inspiration to say that, wow, you know, you can do so much. Public service, whatnot. So some things are, I don't know, I guess, you know, it just really depends. We, you know, we don't know when we're expressing the open charity, we don't know it just by you sharing an insight. You know, I learned this today, and you're telling me that right there, you're openly, you could have kept that knowledge to yourself and say, well, I'm not practicing it, or this is, you know, whatever sacred knowledge, I'm not sure if she wants to hear it, but you telling me that is right there an open act of charity. So I guess the forms are endless, and there's a conscious and unconscious telling regardless. Don't have the answer. May, would you like to share something? You're penning.
Sure, it's very long, so
by all means.
Just whatever came out. Bismillah. What is of service, what is not of service? In debt, at the fingertip of a whip for disregarding the king's orders. To decline fate is to open the door to sorcerers. Failure at his hand is success in another. If all belongs to him, then only source to uncover. Poverty is richness, to be of service, to give even when broke, to assist even when stoked at what life has given you, offer from self. I mean, like offer from self, not from what's in your hand. Or both, but the emphasis, okay. Share the struggle and share silence. Remind the mind of forgetting itself. To feel the heart break at the state of the poverty we all innately share. If the king wishes to disavow you from all your belongings, leave you barefoot, it is his feet you walk with. Give gratitude, and in thanking, there will be service. In a greeting, in doing no harm. May intention master any affliction of being unable, for you're able. If every day you think of a way, you'll find a way that resonates, eventually to your higher calling. It may be to clean bathrooms, if that is what is written. A grateful heart can only serve not the one looking for honor among men, but honor among the King of men, cleaning a kingdom from feces. The most noble cause is intention. The ego may battle for a name, heed the signs, honor with him is at stake. Keep giving in mindfulness of what arises is our filth. If what arises is our filth, and the cleaning is a karmic cycle, so give and be of service, and the kingdom of God may be its entry, you will deserve it. When in stillness you find sufficiency in being, in feeling, collectively doing, and undoing the individualistic knot, untangled by an act of service.
This reminded me of, the cleaners in Medina or Mecca. When you actually talk to them, if you have an opportunity or you make an effort to talk to them, you'll find out about their backgrounds, and it's just amazing how, they want to serve in these holy cities, and not due to the need for employment, but just that act of service. And many of them are very interesting individuals. Yeah.
Or you mean they work as
they work as
cleaners?
cleaners, and you might have a millionaire who's a cleaner and you'll never know that. Or whatnot. And yeah, it's interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
I want to share from Sheikh Nurjan's work. He says that when I was given this task of cleaning the feces, he said that at first, when I was very angry that what kind of a task did they give us, but then afterwards I realized they ask us to clean is to be able to take the burden of others. You're taking upon the awliya are taking upon the burden of their disciples and of the ummah. So that was a big service that they were doing. And likewise, in the previous Divaan, Noor said that when we are doing the work, it's our hearts are being, or the diseases of the hearts are being cleaned. So that's very powerful.
It's actually in the yogic tradition, it's like karma yoga is the remedy for everything. Like you can do the practices, you can do, the mantras or the breathing or the things, but karma yoga, the action, the yoga of action and service, that's like whatever you have going on, you do that, and then that's the cure. So that's very, I don't know, it resonates a lot.
It's a very active sort of it's a way. It's a very holistic way. Like we just read that, he was concerned about the poor,
and it's a very safe way in the sense that you hear about these people, and again, I see that in myself. You can get very caught up in chasing rewards or chasing what is it called, abilities or whatnot, like
or seeking fulfillment through
and karma yoga really doesn't allow you to do that. Service doesn't really allow you to do that. I mean, of course you can then start wanting to have the, like it said in the Bhagavad Gita, it's like you're supposed to do actions, doing it as good as you can, but then you renounce the fruit of your actions. So you're like, I'm gonna do this in the most conscious, present way that I possibly can, but then the outcome has nothing. I won't claim the outcome, whether it's good or bad. I'm gonna just like, that is not for me. I give that away as well. And that is like
That's powerful.
such a
Beautiful.
freeing way to do things.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember once I was in a conversation with this activist, and there was an elderly person complaining about, you know, so and so didn't thank me for this, you know, thing I did for him or her, and she just had like a one sort of line response that, why is it you need the thanks? Like, why are you know, why are you like, what? Yeah, basically, why are you seeking that sort of recognition or even a thank you? Why? And he had nothing to say to that. Intention is key, and sincerity is inner work.
There's some, again, I can't quote this perfectly, as I never seem to remember these things word by word, but there's again a passage somewhere in the Bible where I think Jesus is talking about the people who are giving alms and those who are giving it like openly in front of others at the temple, and those who give it in secret. And then he says about doing it, you know, without asking for recognition, that, you know, those who have given it openly, they've already received their thanks in this world, and hence they won't need the reward afterwards. But those who, you know, give it in secret, they'll get it later, kind of thing. So of course I see the, you know, what you mentioned about also being an example, but this thing about wanting a, like wanting recognition, wanting a thank you.
Yeah.
And I do think there is that universal law of like no energy can escape anywhere. So hence whatever you put out, you're gonna get back in whatever way. And that's why also I'm thinking like sometimes when we get something from someone, it doesn't have to be necessarily to that person. It's coming back straight away from you. But just the fact that you're passing it on, it will reach that person sooner or later.
And we wouldn't have known about the miracles of Jesus had they not been
Passed on.
performed openly.
Yeah. Exactly.
How would we know?
You know, I don't think there's nothing wrong in doing it openly. It's just
that is an act,
clinging.
because you can actually take someone into a private space and heal them with no one else around. But then the miracle is when there is there are multiple eyewitnesses. So these prophets generously were channeling, because it's not them, they were just mediums. So I guess it takes time to get to that, and that's where the training and spiritual everything is happening, and requiring us to get to that state of detachment from ourselves, with the actions, even, you know, with the doing, and acting as mere vessels.
Do you want to read yours?
Sure, I could do that. Do you want to do that?
Go ahead.
Okay. Service. May our lives be sacrificed, our children, wealth, and parents. How generous was Fatima lulling her children whilst giving her last meal to the beggar. Those who gave the goat head to the next, and next, only to return once again. Ana Hadir, how may I serve you? The guest is God, all mine is yours. Muhajir and Ansar, master and disciple, giver and receiver, we take lessons on how to be, how to do and live. Those who were entrusted, Al-Amin, Amina, we carry to birth, to give, to serve. Your children are not yours, says Gibran. A trust we all have, so to be given, shared in all forms. Oh, the generous one, I am not the owner of anything. Al-Ghani, Mughni. Generous are those who fulfill the trust, knowing what was given was meant to be shared. Plenty are the eternal treasures for all. Enough there is to go around, a million times more. The eternal stores have no limit. Abundance is endless. Why do we withhold? The replenisher is responsible to fill the trays we serve as mere servants of the Most High. Why then do we assume what we, I don't know what I've written here, there's a little bit of a typo. Why then do we assume what we serve is our very own? That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
We take lessons in how to be. Was that one of the...
Yeah. Yes.
That reminds me of both the lessons I've been taught just by this whole generous outpouring of gifts that has been happening during this pregnancy. Like you mentioned, all these people who are stepping up and giving their time and their service. But also about, there was a time when I was traveling in Thailand and I was living with another traveler. And at some point she told me, she was like, I don't know if you're aware, but I'm paying for most of the things and soon my money is going to be out. And the shame I felt when I realized, you know, how easy it is to just kind of ride on other people's, you know, generosity, energy, whatnot. And in comparison, the lightness when there's that full surrender of like not holding back like what's yours and what's an appropriate amount to give or to share or things like that.
And interesting, I think those who embody service where it becomes a part of their way of living and being, they have that effect on others. So the guides are constantly able to activate the inherent gift we have, and that is to serve. So they redirect you to do things, you know, all the time. It's almost like it's an entire ecosystem that's created through individuals who have this, who live it. And when you have individuals who live it, they can activate or create that effect in others. And that itself is a way of being and giving at the same time. Did you share yours?
Not yet.
Okay.
Allow me to be of use if I can be of use to you. What greater honor could I ask for? At times I make myself idle. I sit like the branch stuck between rocks in a stream, refusing to flow with the water. This benefits no one. Soon I have not only myself stuck, but also others get caught in my stagnation. Dislodge me if you can. Remove my opinions and ideas about what I'm supposed to do here. Use me wholly and fully, heart, body, and soul. This vessel is nothing in itself, and full it will only be heavy to carry. Let it thus both be filled and emptied in equal part, according to your will. And then I wrote a little other one. Your independence keeps you from being one with me. Allow me to nurture you, to care for you. Let my love in. What a noble act of service that would be on your part.
Let love in. Remember once we discussed the idea of, individuals with hyper independence, and it's like they technically are
Closing off
closing
from
off
others.
from receiving, just due to this. It's almost like a selfish desire to be independent.
I feel like it's also that, like, when you touched upon shame, if in your life you're around people who aren't generous, and then they make you feel shameful for, just enjoying things because you have an open heart to receive, then suddenly you have to build walls because you don't want to feel that shame again.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it's just a reaction, not trusting and being sure that you're independent, so you don't feel that shame again.
And I think also when sometimes people can serve in a, like, almost, what is it called when you're looking down on someone?
Condescending.
Yeah, in that kind of a
like
way.
an upper hand situation.
And then it makes you feel like you're not really being served. You're just like, I don't know.
Charity basket case.
And then no one wants to feel that
also,
burden either.
And sometimes it's a parenting style, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
owe the parents something when, after they did what they were, and they chose to do. They didn't really choose to do, but by having you, it's their job. And they feel like, well, now it's your duty to serve me.
Yeah.
If they make you feel like it's your duty rather than it is a duty, because it comes from love, like you were saying, like there's an overflow of love, then you feel whenever somebody's doing something for you, you said it too, like it's charity.
Strings attached. Yeah.
That's very egoic. And like you said, you nailed it. There's a lot of parents who actually do that. We're doing
It's
this
like
for
investing
you.
in a
We're,
bank for
paying for your
future.
education and your roof and all of that. It's almost like they're seeking to be rewarded, or it's payback time now.
Yeah, they're like making small servants for themselves for their future days.
Or
And they
even
also
constant reminder, even if they're not seeking anything in return, just to constantly remind an individual that you are a means to serve, to just keep reminding them of all the things that you're doing for them. I mean, that itself is questionable.
and there's a lot of It's also coming from place of fear most sometimes as well. And most of the times, like the way we are seeing things are how the youth is turning into. It's more from fear now. How the kids don't care, they would run away, they would do it in a minute, then not look back. And then it will take them years to then think, oh, what did I do? And that's like happening so much. So there's fear in the parents as well. That too happens, like they have to remind, but it's also coming from fear.
Children are a beautiful example of, living so purely in the act of giving and receiving. Just their way of when they give and when they receive, they're so overjoyed without that sort of pride and, all of those sort of facets of the diseased soul. It's not at all. You don't see that in children because they're so pure. They're coming from such a pure place. Interesting.
I'm also reminded of this gesture. I think it was from Banu Kudsia, and she says that it's good from the childlike state. You said that they're so pure when they're receiving, and they're so grateful when they receive, and that joy is so contagious. So she says that when we grow up, right, where God likes us in the state of our state of being vulnerable, not in a prideful state, because then she gives the example of a mother that when a baby grows up, even the mother just throws away the child out of the lap. So that's that our state should be like that of receivers with God and His creation. So it was very beautiful analogy that she created.
Could you explain that? Like how throwing the baby out of the lap?
Yeah, because when
Putting
babies
inside.
when babies become self-sufficient, the mom doesn't keep them in their lap. They're more in the care of a mother, more in her attention when they are not self-sufficient. She's constantly giving without any sense of receiving. That's how God is when we are constantly in the state of nothingness and weakness, and we're constantly receivers of God's love. That's what I understand from this.
The unconditional and the selfless.
Yes.
So we've had our fair share of the Divaan this week. I think the topic is endless and we can always keep going on and on. It's a great topic and one to reflect on and to really see how we're spending our day to day. What part of our day involves actual service to others, service to the plant in the house, to water it, taking care of nature around us, that all of that. Or are we just self-absorbed in serving ourselves? So something to think about. So shall we close off? Maybe a little heart prayer silently.
Yeah, prayer for Louisa.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
I guess we'll have our next Divaan in Feb,
Inshallah.
inshallah.
Yeah, maybe you'll be home by then, or maybe not. Who knows?
I don't know. Let's see.
Wherever home is.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for your generosity for such a short, warning, just being here in this space.
Thank you.
Thank you for always teaching us and caring for us, nurturing us through your time and space and so much wisdom.
Equally.
We're here to learn from one another,
Mm.
and
The past months have totally, yani, my life has changed in all areas, and you've been giving me direction more than you can imagine, yani, and hope and faith, inshallah, and a good mirror to reflect on the bad traits that I'm gaining because I'm slacking, and then it's a good reminder to always remember, even if you have nothing, you could still be of service, and to be more aware of the things around you, mindful, inshallah.
remember, a smile is an act of serving. Have you ever experienced, like, when you're sad and you're out and about and you're among strangers, and that one smile that you receive just randomly, how that impacts you? So the effects are so profound, just being love. So yeah, so may we strive to embody servanthood in whatever way and form we are called to, inshallah. And we ask the most generous one to grant us from his generosity and to activate giving within us. Ameen.
Ameen.
Until next time, peace and blessings be upon everyone here and everyone present and absent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamualaikum.